Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular Board of Education meeting of the 29th of April, 2024. I'd like to welcome you all here and start us off in a good way by recognizing and acknowledging both the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. Trustees, may I have a mover to approve this evening's agenda? Thank you, Trustee Mabobi, seconded by Trustee McNally. Any changes or amendments to the agenda? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approval of our agenda with a show of hands, please. And that is unanimous. Thank you, folks. We have a number of minutes to approve under A3. It goes A through C. I'm wondering trustees want to give me some direction about how you'd like to approve those. Would you like to move them as a group, or would you like to separate any of the minutes out? Move them as a group? We're fine with that? Okay, may I have a mover then to move all of the minutes under A3? Thank you, Trustee McNally, seconded by Trustee Gagnon. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes? Again with a show of hands, and that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. Okay, so moving right along, we do have, I'm going to ask again my trustee colleagues, do you have any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we do not have any district presentations or student achievement to report this evening, so that we are now at A7 of our agenda. We do have one community presentation. Mia Golden is here from the MIST, the Mobile Youth Services team, to speak about SPLOs. Mia, have you joined us? I think I see you here. Hi there, Mia. Whenever you're ready, so I know you presented to us before, but just a reminder about our process. You have 5 minutes. I do time presenters, and I will let you know about a minute before the end of your 5 minutes. So please excuse my interruption, but I will let you know when you've got a minute left. And whenever you're ready, you can begin. Hi, Mia, can you hear me? Perhaps what we'll do is we'll see if we can oh, hold on. I see that Mia's connecting to audio. So we'll just give Mia a moment just to connect fully. Mia, just let me know if you can hear me. I'm afraid we can't hear you. I know that you're here. I can see your presence in our virtual meeting, but unfortunately we can't hear you. Mia, if you can hear me, perhaps you can drop off and then just rejoin. And if I could ask staff just to have a close eye for Mia rejoining, and we'll see if that solves the technical issue. In the meantime, perhaps what I'll do, trustees, is just move us through the correspondence section while Mia's trying to sort out the technical difficulties. So at B, we have various pieces of correspondence at B1, B2, and B3. Trustees, is there anything in that correspondence that you would like to pull out for discussion? Trustee McNally, go ahead.
The note from the BC Confederation of Parent Advisory Councils just concerns me, and I've missed a lot, but there's an appeal to preserve Strong Start programs across British Columbia, which leads me to believe that they're under threat. Could I have a bit more information about that? Is the province planning to do away with that program?
Yeah, thank you, Trustee.
I'm sorry, through the chair to whoever can answer.
Yeah, thanks very much. No, the letter suggests that that there's some funding difficulties. I believe the funding hasn't changed since 2008, I believe. And so I know Strong Start programs are having trouble operating without an adequate increase in funding to meet their operational needs. However, I wonder if we have anybody on staff that could provide some more nuance and maybe some SD61 context. Superintendent, is there anyone here this evening that could help to clarify the nature of the threat to the services provided through Strong Start?
I can begin and then I'll pass it over to Secretary Treasurer Stride. So within District 61, we do supplement with operating funds. We haven't, as you mentioned, received additional funding for many, many years. And so in order to maintain the level of service at the Strong Starts, we do have to provide additional funds. I also see Associate Secretary Treasurer Latner on the call too, so she may be able to provide more information.
Sounds good. Secretary Treasurer or Associate Secretary Treasurer, if you have anything else that you'd like to add. Associate Secretary Treasurer, go ahead.
Thanks, through the chair. So in 24-25, we are contributing an additional $68,000 in operating funds to help sustain the Strong Start program. So we've been receiving $192,000 for all of our centers. I think you said 2008. It's been the same since I've been here, which was 2012. So yeah, we haven't seen an increase in funding since then.
Thank you very much. Perhaps we can include that then in our funding request, an appeal letter to the province. So thank you very much for that that information. Thank you, Trustee McNally, for the question. Any other correspondence under this correspondence section that trustees would like to pull for discussion? Okay, so I'm going to move us backward then with everyone's indulgence. I see that Mia has been able to join us. Mia, can you hear me okay? And can we just test that we can hear you?
Yes,
Oh,
I can hear you.
Okay,
I'm doing two things.
Okay, fair enough. Sometimes the technology doesn't cooperate with us, and sometimes it's our best friend. So tonight it's not cooperating, but we've managed to find a solution. So thank you. We can hear you loud and clear. So when you're ready, I don't know if you heard me. I just wanted to remind you, I know you presented it to us before, but I just wanted to remind you that you have 5 minutes. I will time you and I will remind you when you have a minute left that you do. So again, pardon my interruption. And whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to rush it because I have a lot to say. Okay, first of all, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm the counselor half of the MISS team. Our mandate is the prevention of exploitation of youth, whether that be online, sexual, sex trafficking, or gang recruitment. We have always been busy. Now we are overwhelmed. I firstly want to acknowledge that, yes, some people will have had stressful or unpleasant or even traumatic events with or where police were involved. As parents, as adults, it is our job to guide our children back to have a negative or criminal type encounter here in Victoria. And that is the perspective that perhaps has gotten lost somewhere along the way. Our children and youth are living in a time like no other. We have seen vast increases in mental health issues. Never before have children faced such relentless exposure to threats. And now we have people, adults, who are sending a very loud and clear indoctrinating message, whether that be conscious or not, that the people they looked up to as children, the group you called if you ever needed help, if you were ever in danger, if you needed assistance, now those people are villains. I find so upsetting. Do we want our children to lose yet another foothold under their already shaky ground? So if someone is breaking into their house, you want your child to be afraid to call 911. This messaging is so unbearably damaging to our children and youth. In my work, I'm tired of seeing children go through things that could have been prevented. I'm tired of seeing children sit with fears longer than they needed to. And I'm tired of, well, white people indoctrinating racialized children into thinking they aren't safe from police here in Victoria. I'll start with the gang issue. I think people are slowly becoming alive to the issue. Oops, I popped ahead. Yes, people are slowly becoming alive to the fact that gang recruitment is taking place here, but it's to the severity of the issue. So my question would be to you, do you know what is happening in the schools? Because no one has reached out to myself or my work partner to ask questions as to what is actually taking place. My hope is, with so much at stake, board members will reach out with questions, both this evening and later. We're the ones meeting with the youth. We know gang members come into our school parking lots, fields, everywhere to recruit. They do product drop-offs, they do pickups. We know they come into our school buildings to recruit, threaten, and groom. We have a significant uptick in children carrying knives and pepper spray for protection, just protection. How do you think that impacts their mental health? That average children are afraid in schools, which brings me to the argument as to why SPLOs shouldn't be in, brings me to your argument as to why SPLOs shouldn't be in the schools. That some racialized people may be afraid of police. Racialized people are the most vulnerable people. I know this both professionally and well, personally. And there are many well-meaning people out there fighting for us. But what that does is maintain the status quo messaging that white people know better and keeps those of us who are racialized in the victim or less than role. As a society, we have seen so many positive gains over the last few decades around racism, but equality doesn't sit well for those who benefit from racism. And so campaigns that foster a divide between police and racialized groups is beneficial. That way, any people engaging in criminogenic behaviors can know that racialized people can fill the space with this crusade. You may be the ones making the decision, but you aren't the ones having to tell a parent that their child has just died from an overdose. You aren't the ones who are sitting across from a young person who is disclosing a detailed, horrific sexual assault. You aren't the ones sitting with a young person who is consumed with anxiety. And you aren't the ones offering support to youth who have just had to move or are contemplating move because they had to cut ties with a gang. Have you seen the SPLOs interacting with the students? I've been in this position for 10 years. I got to see them laughing, interacting, joking. I also see them cry at the end of a shift after receiving a horrific disclosure from a child. This misguided crusade is allowing children to have to sit with their fears, their horrors, their traumas. So, yay.
Yeah, sorry, I know it goes by so quickly, and I know you were being as quick as you could be. Thank you very much for being here this evening and sharing your perspective with us. We appreciate it. You're not under any obligation to take questions, but if you wish to, I can open the floor to the trustees if they have any.
Yes, my hope is that there are questions.
Thank you. Trustees, did you have any questions or comments that you wanted to share with Mia while she's here with us this evening? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Sorry, I think I'm having just as much trouble unmuting. Mia, first of all, I just wanted to say how grateful I am for you and your team. I know how much you do for the students in our district and our communities in general. So I just wanted to express how much I appreciate the work that you do and your team does. I also just wanted to connect with you with regards to perhaps some education that might be able to happen around I guess, you know, some of the concerns that are happening both in our schools and a community. Recently in the Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee, we talked about CRAT and about how there might be additional funding and perhaps some education pieces that we can bring into our schools. So, you know, that's something I think that would be very interesting to be able to take advantage of in order to really get some preventative education going.
Yeah, Gordon, yes, you're bang on, but Gordon and I are already doing that.
Great, fantastic.
We do presentations on healthy relationships and exploitation prevention, and then we have just started a gang prevention presentation as well in the schools. So it's just a matter of them calling us.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mia. I understand that there may be some additional funding as well that is going to be available. And currently there's considerations about how that money might be spent. I'm curious as to whether or not there have been any discussions about spending resource to increase or expand on the work of your team.
Yes, that is being discussed for sure. That is something that we are hoping to be able to get another counselor and another police officer at least. Since the SPLOs have left, we are so overwhelmed, and I really encourage any of you to reach out to us so that you can really hear what is actually happening. Because I'm not sure that there's been an appetite to actually know what is happening in the school.
Thank you very much, Mia. We appreciate it. Of course, the board does rely on our staff and also the community for feedback on what's going on in schools. We will continue to look at these issues, and we appreciate your level of engagement. If there are no other questions, trustees, we'll wish Mia a good evening. Mia, I will also forward you some information about the board's decision. I think it would be helpful for us to share more with you about the nature of our decision. Trustee McNally, you had a final thought or question?
Thank you. Yes, through the chair to Mia, this is pretty crass. A pretty crass question to ask, but where is your funding from? The funds you
My funding
doesn't give you
comes
enough money.
from- yeah, my funding, the counselor position is I'm paid by Pacific Center Family Services, and so it's a variety of grants that my ED applies for every year. And the police officer position, it's an integrated position, so it's paid for by all the police departments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McNally, and thanks again, Mia, for being here. We appreciate you and the work you do. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, we are now at Chair's report. Just bear with me a second. There was a couple of things. The report is there for your information as always. However, there are a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight from the report. First of all, I want to just acknowledge with gratitude and excitement the Vic High reopening event earlier in the month. It was really wonderful to see the reaction of staff and students who are getting acclimatized to their new building and are extremely excited to be in the new surroundings with all the new amenities. Just want to again reiterate our extreme gratitude to all the staff, all the trades, everyone that did so much heavy lifting to bring this project to completion through very difficult times, complex global pandemics and all the rest of it. So I don't think we can say enough how grateful we are and how excited we are that the staff and students actually get to now enjoy their new building. So thank you. I also wanted to just highlight a couple of things happening this month. Certainly Earth Day is a very important event that has occurred this month. This year, the official theme is Planet versus Plastics. I would just encourage you all to have a look at our school district's activities related to protecting our environment. In particular, our climate action plan, and which is available via the link in my report. We also would want to encourage folks to have a read through, and especially anyone around the board table who hasn't had a chance to read through our climate accountability reporting, which we'll be discussing in June. But our most recent climate accountability reporting with our emissions and our offsets and our plan around reducing emissions is in that report, and which is available again on our website. And then I wanted to really acknowledge and I'd say a great big thank you on behalf of the board to the students, the Representative Advisory Council of Students. They did some amazing work. They identified that there were mental health and wellness learning needs that students had from across our district. They took it upon themselves, using their own initiative and ingenuity, to organize a student-led wellness resource fair for secondary students across our district. It took place at Victoria High School on the 25th of this month. It brought together health and wellness community members and supports, along with resources available in community for students. Just really wanted to acknowledge the leadership, the dedication, and the ingenuity of our students. So thank you so much for all that you've done there. And finally, under the reminders section of my report this month, there are a number of links. One to a SPLO statement regarding our decision, and also around the availability of an FAQ for folks that want to find out more about our decision and the basis of our decision, and some of what we're doing moving forward. Again, I would encourage you to click on those links and do a little bit of reading around that. And then at C1B, you'll find the district's annual work plan for May. This just gives you some highlights to keep in mind as we move into our work in the month of May. We're going to see enrollment updates. We are going to review our ad hoc committees. We will look at enhancing student learning reports around literacy and priority schools. And we also do some of our compliance and accountability work in the month of May. We again look to receive that climate change accountability report that I mentioned, and also to look at and review a 2024-25 annual 5-year capital plan. So some highlights to look for in the month of May. Any questions? I'm happy to receive any questions that folks might have about the report this month. Okay, don't see any, so I'm just going to move us along in our agenda. We are now at the trustee reports, which we don't have any this month. We are at our board committee reports. So this month, our Education Policy and Directions Committee meeting occurred on the 15th of April. We have minutes there for folks for your information. There were no recommended motions. Under D2 of our agenda, the Operations Policy and Planning Committee meeting again occurred on the 22nd of April, and the minutes are there for information only. We do have a number of recommended motions at B. If you would like, I can read the first. So the first recommended motion coming from Operations Policy and Planning is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, approve revised policy 8251, Trustees Code of Conduct. I wonder if we want to, well, let's look to move that motion, and then when we do, I will look to our partners who may have some feedback for us before we enter into discussion. So trustees, are we happy to move that? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder. Do we have a seconder to move that? I'm happy to move that, second that. Okay, so it's on the floor. I'm going to turn first to our partners around the table if they have any comments or feedback for us in relation to the recommended changes to that policy. And just a reminder, folks, that policy, the updates are due to the ministry tomorrow by end of play. Okay, I don't see any comments from our partners around the table this evening. So trustees, the motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. Last call. All those in favor of the policy as amended? All those opposed? Abstentions? So, okay, so we have the balance in favor with Trustee Painter abstaining. Thank you very much, folks. Second recommended motion on our agenda this evening is that the Board of Education of School District 61, Greater Victoria, approve the posting of the following 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 school calendars on the district's website for a period of 1 month. And then we've got the actual calendar, proposed calendar. So this is just the month-long consultation process that is required under the School Act. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by trustee McNally and seconded by trustee Mabobi. Again, just turning to our partners around the table this evening, if you have any comments or thoughts. Yeah, hi, Nissa, welcome. Nice to see you. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Through the chair, I just want to express that I really appreciate that the districts are moving to align this, because I hear from parents that there's going to be like the overwhelming feedback is that this is a long time coming. So really appreciate the work that's been done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you to Associate Superintendent Arts. I believe who's leading this on the staff side, so thanks so much. All right. Any other comments before I turn to trustees? Okay, trustees, we've got a motion that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Yeah, and I actually just wanted to give an opportunity maybe in the public to talk a little bit about how we've worked with the calendars to make sure and how they align with other school districts and how they may not. So I wondered if a member of staff, probably Associate Superintendent, might be able to elaborate on that, and just so anyone watching knows how the calendars have been worked out.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. I'll turn to staff if you want to provide any details.
Thank you. Through the chair, I can speak to that. So as mentioned already, one of the main goals here was to try to align with our neighboring districts of Sauk and Saanich. And we have already approved the 24-25 calendars. I won't speak to that. 25, 26, 26, 27. In 25-26, we are completely aligned with all of our dates. With the exception that Victoria has a school choice professional development day. Sauk and Saanich do not. They block all of their professional development days. So we will, depending on the day that the school chooses, may have a Pro D day that's not in alignment. But our winter break, our spring break, our school start, our mandated professional development days, and some of our optional ones are aligned. The same fits for the 26-27 school year, with the exception of the September Pro D Day. Currently, and to be clear, Sauk and Saanich are still going through the same consultation process. So things possibly could change, but the recommended calendars, the September Pro D Day, we are in alignment with Sauk. We are on Monday, September 21st. Saanich is Friday, September 25th. So that's a change that they made. So we are never on our own, not in alignment with at least one of the other districts, other than that possible school chosen day.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion, trustees, in relation to the recommended motion? And again, this is to put the proposed calendar, multi-year calendar on the website, so for a period of 1 month in line with the School Act. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. Okay, so moving along, we are at E1 of our agenda. This is the superintendent's monthly report. We do have a recommended motion that the Board of Education School District number 61, Greater Victoria, receive the superintendent's report as presented. Before we move that, Superintendent, would you like to highlight anything from your report this month?
Thank you very much. And through the chair, there are a few items that I would like to highlight. First of all is congratulations to the students who competed in Skills Canada Provincial Championships held just a little while ago in April. You'll see the names in the report beginning on page 54. Also to the Pathways and Partnerships group, the team for hosting and facilitating the career fair that occurred last week. And then as you had mentioned, Chair Duncan, the Vic High student rep, Molly, who did tremendous amount of work to put together the student wellness fair, and also all of the other students who put that work forward. It was certainly a fantastic event, given we have students leading it for students. It's Mental Health Awareness in May. This was making resources more accessible for students, overall wellness focus. We had secondary school students attend, as well as Central Middle School students walked over with over 30 tables from community. So again, a lot of effort, support from Vic High Principal Parker, Vice Principals Mercer and Reside. So a very good group effort and not without challenges based on just coming back into the school. So lots of juggling, but an overall fantastic event. And just lastly, again, Facilities Department and Indigenous Education Department for all of their work in planning the SJ Willis site. So that's the gratitude and the areas that I wanted to surface for this evening.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Whitten. Trustees, did you have any questions for the superintendent in relation to her monthly report? Trustee McNally, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Through the chair to the superintendent. If it isn't sort of in camera, superintendent, could you let us know what was kind of top of mind in the all superintendents meeting?
Thank you, Trustee McNally. Superintendent, when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. A fantastic question, Trustee McNally. So the conversation was with regards to Bill 40, specifically school of choice, as well as the model LEAs that we're learning more about. So those were the two areas of discussion.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Yeah, I have some curiosity actually about the Education Research Development and Innovation meeting, and perhaps what some of the discussion was at that meeting.
Thank you, and through the chair, primary focus of this event was around AI in schools, specifically with regards to human resources and productivity, as well as how we can infuse payroll. And then some interest around how we work with some professional coaching that's embedded within a 360 survey. So that was the primary conversations there and learning there and lots of discussions from different superintendents and directors across the country.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Any further questions or comments in relation to the superintendent's report? Okay, may I have a mover to receive the superintendent's monthly report, please? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee McNally. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of receiving the superintendent's report with a show of hands, please. And that is unanimous. Thank you, folks. Okay, so we are now at E1B. This is the International Student Program Biannual Report. Superintendent, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, and I will invite Director Davis. He is here with us this evening and can speak to the biannual report for April.
Thank you, and through the chair, sorry, losing my voice here. So the report is fairly brief. It includes 3 parts: the background, which provides the rationale for the biannual report or the reporting requirements as per the International Student Enrollment Policy. There's quite a bit of data within this report around current enrollment and future enrollment recommended. You can see in the information, it outlines how many international students are enrolled in the Greater Victoria School District this year, in the 23-24 school year. And then it also further goes on to outline how many international students are projected to return next year. That's 287.5. However, noting that there will be a natural decrease in the number of returning students as plans change for families. Table 2 on the second, this is, sorry, I should have noted, this is 88, page 88 in the pack-up. And this page 89 in the pack-up is the table. And the table has 3 columns. Of course, has all 3 levels, secondary, middle, and elementary. There's the 23-24 annualized enrollment by school. There's the 24-25 projected annualized enrollments, and the 24-25 annualized enrollments as of April 16th, 2024. And you'll notice some trends where schools that may have you'll just notice some trends. Schools that may have less capacity have fewer international students for 24-25. That is the end of kind of my brief overview. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Director Davis. We appreciate you joining us this evening. Trustees, just going to turn things over to any questions that you have. Trustee McNally, you want to kick us off? Go ahead.
Thank you. And yes, through the chair to the director of ISP. Are those 6 week, I think it was 6 weeks, 6 week sort of visiting, checking out Victoria courses still part of the ISP offerings?
Through the chair, yes, Trustee McNally, we still offer those types of experiences.
You had a follow-up, Trustee McNally? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this so that it's clear. What is the uptake on those courses? Is it significant, or I don't know, percentages? I know that's just something you can't answer off the top of your head probably, but just ballpark. What is the uptake on those courses?
Through the chair, we don't have like a specific 6-week program. We endeavor to have, if students are on a short-term program, 3 months or longer. However, if it was a group of students coming in, we may do something shorter. I would need to give you very precise data. I'd need to go back and look at our short-term enrollment more carefully, and maybe I could do that at a later date. I don't want to say anything that's not completely accurate at this meeting.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
Thank you, Trustee McNally, and thank you, Director Davis. Trustee Painter, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, to Dr. Davis. I'm interested in, it seems to be growth in elementary level ISP. And just want to clarify, these are our ISP students as opposed to students of or children of individuals on educational leave at university or something of that nature?
Director Davis.
Through the chair. Thank you for the question. It's a slight increase over the past year or so, and there's could be several reasons that I'm greater interest in families coming and perhaps doing a year as an international student and then returning to their home country, or sometimes there are families that start off in the international category, if you will, and move into a work permit or a study permit for parent situation. It's a slight increase. It's not a significant at this point, but if it continues for the next few years, then we would look at it carefully. Does that answer the question?
Trustee Painter, did you have any follow-up for Director Davis?
Yeah, just to confirm, these are all ISP students as opposed to children of individuals on study permits, et cetera, right?
Yes, these are families that are coming in where the children would be on study permits, not the parents.
Thank you for the clarification. Trustee Gagnon, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. For the director, I noticed that Lambert High has a projected increase of about 15.5. With Lambert's already low enrollment numbers overall, I had spoken previously with both yourself and with the principal at Lambert about how the sort of ratio breaks down between local, for lack of a better word, students and ISP students. And with that increase, is there any concern about sort of that ratio and how the experience would work out for the ISP students?
Thank you, Trustee Gagnon, through the chair. Yes, that's something that we're always looking at very carefully and consulting with everybody involved, including Principal Gord Mitchell, and it's fortunate that Lambert, that slight increase of 15 students that you mentioned is also at the same time, my understanding is the Lambert domestic population is slightly increasing, so it's very similar to what it would have been. The percentage of international students at Lambert is very similar to what it would have been this year.
Thank you, Director Davis. Thank you, Trustee Gagnon. Just brief, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Sorry, and this is perhaps me not understanding. It's kind of, I think, related to Trustee Painter's question with regards to students who may be in our district because their parents are on a work permit or a study permit. The table that you're presenting to us, are those students included in those numbers as well? I believe that there might be possibility of them being ministry funded if their parents are on a permit of some sort, and I'm just curious if those students are included in these numbers as well.
Another good question through the chair. No, the students where families are on a work permit or study permit are not included in any of this data.
Thank you, trustees. Thank you, Director Davis. Director Davis just had one query. Just looking at our policy around enrollment and the biannual reporting. At 3.9, we're looking at ISP enrollment as a percentage of the total school population, and then recommendations for future enrollment growth based on the availability of space over a number of years, over sort of a minimum of sort of 3 years. I'm wondering if we could see an updated table with that percentage of the total school population and the projected growth over the next 3 years reflected, perhaps at the May ops, but I'm happy to have a discussion with the superintendent about where that could land.
Thank you very much, and through the chair. Certainly that data could be produced. I think it is very difficult for it, with all of the enrollment trends. I'm not sure how accurate it will be, but it could be produced again if that is the request that comes forward.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the board is interested, and we appreciate that these are all projections and are subject to change. But I think we're very keen to kind of be looking and planning several years ahead, just to make sure that we've accounted for growth and adequate space at all of our schools. But yeah, thank you very much. We'll look at an appropriate meeting to bring a revised table forward, but we want to thank you for reporting to us this evening and answering all of our various questions. We appreciate it.
As always, thank you for having me.
All right, folks, we are now at E1CI. This is our Specialty Academy fees memo. Superintendent, would you direct that memo to the appropriate staff person to present to the board?
Yes, I'll pass it over to Associate Superintendent Arts.
Thank you, and through the chair, as you see in the package, you have the PAC and school endorsed academy fees for our 4 academies in our district taking place. I will highlight that there are no changes to academy fees next year, no increases from the current year. So all 4 schools are going to be able to maintain current costing with what they're offering. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Associate Superintendent Arts. Trustees, any questions in relation to the academy fees, or indeed partners around the table, if you have any questions in relation to those academy fees? Trustee McNally, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. This is sort of tangential, but just a question about the hockey academy. My understanding, I mean, my son never played hockey, but the rumor is it's really expensive to outfit somebody well to play hockey. So, you know, from my previous discussions about how much I don't like fees, and that any student who can afford it and I guess qualifies will be subsidized by the district. What about equipment, hockey equipment? Is there any subsidy for that?
Thank you, Trustee McNally. Associate Superintendent, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. As Trustee McNally mentioned, any student who's not able to afford will be supported to be in the program, but equipment is not part of that. So there may be a community support for that, but that is not something that the academy itself would do.
Thank you both. Any other questions or comments? Nissa, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, it's my understanding that there are many community supports for equipment through sharing and reusing equipment. And then I believe like Canadian Tire and various other organizations across Canada have opportunities to donate equipment. So there are other opportunities outside of the school community.
Thank you very much. Yeah, our school communities are a wealth of information and support for one another, which is great. Okay, we do have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61 Greater Victoria makes available to the public via the district website the schedules of fees that have been approved by the Parents Advisory Council for the school where the board proposes to offer a specialty academy. Would someone like to move the motion? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, and a seconder. Trustee Babobi, thank you. So any questions or discussion in relation to the fees? All right, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion with a show of hands? All those opposed? Abstentions? All right, so the ballots are in favor with Trustee McNally abstaining. Thank you again. All right, so that moves us to D. This is the Regulation 6163.1 Learning Resources. Superintendent.
Thank you very much. I will pass it over to Associate Superintendent Arts.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, as previous motion was to bring a draft regulation for learning resources to the board by the end of April. And so that's what this is. I'm not sure if tonight is the time that we want to dissect, or if this wants to go to a committee for further conversation. I know, for example, some teacher librarians have been very supportive in working on this and would appreciate that, but I'm open to what the board would like to do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my suggestion to the board is for us to refer the draft over to the May Education Policy and Direction Standing Committee, and perhaps then also send out an invite to folks that might want to participate in those discussions, for instance, the teacher librarians who have supported this work. So trustees and also partners, if you have any comments around that suggestion, please feel free to express those. All right, yeah, hi Ilda, welcome. Go ahead when you're ready.
Sorry, thanks. I'm trying to find the little hand. Yes, our GVTA members that really welcome the opportunity to work with the district and looking at that policy and finding ways where we can work together to support looking at the resources and making recommendations. They also have a lot of information. That's what they do. So yeah, looking forward to an opportunity to work with the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, we appreciate that. So trustees, if we think that that's an appropriate way to proceed, perhaps someone would like to move a motion to refer the draft regulations to the May Education Policy and Direction Standing Committee meeting. Thank you, Trustee McNally, seconded by Trustee Painter. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor with a show of hands. Sorry, can you just leave your hands up one more time, trustees? Just trying to, there, okay, and that is unanimous. Thank you. All right, thank you, Associate Superintendent Arts. We are now at the trustee questions portion of our agenda. So trustees, this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you have, and staff will do their best to answer them. If not tonight, then at an appropriate point. Okay, I don't see any hands. Final call, trustees, if you have any questions for staff tonight. Okay. Okay, so we now are at E2. This is the Secretary Treasurer's report. At A, the monthly report, there is recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61 Greater Victoria receive the Secretary Treasurer's report as presented. Before we move that motion, Secretary Treasurer, was there anything from your report that you would like to highlight this evening?
I don't have anything in particular to highlight, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Trustees, do you have any questions in relation to the monthly report from the Secretary Treasurer? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
Okay, can I get a little nosy? I was just curious if you could give us a little more information. Of course, I'm interested about the meeting with the Ministry of Education and Childcare regarding funding and financial accountability, and what that might have looked like, if there was any kind of news, good or bad, to share.
Because of the time frame of this report was anytime after March 11th, that meeting was around the funding announcement for next year. So nothing that you don't already know, unfortunately.
No pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. We can dream. Thank you, Trustee Kwan, Secretary Treasurer. Any other questions in relation to the report this month? Okay, I'm just looking then for a mover to receive the reports and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Kwan, seconded by Trustee Mabobi. Any further discussion, trustees? Great, hearing none. All those in favor of receiving the Secretary Treasurer's report? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're at E2B. This is the 2024-2025 capital plan bylaw. We have the potential to move 3 readings, but I'm going to turn the floor over initially to the Secretary Treasurer. Would you mind just grounding our conversation and where we're at with this for trustees before we get started?
Absolutely. So this is the capital plan bylaw that is tied to the submission that the board approved last June. And so on March 15th, the ministry provided us with a letter letting us know which projects we had submitted have been approved for funding or approved to move forward with additional reporting. And so I can just walk you through the different sections if you'd like. And then if we have Marnie here as well, who can answer specific questions about the projects if needed. So under minor capital programs, so you'll see there Oaklands Elementary, a renovation. So we've talked about this a bit before around the remediation of the mullions on the exterior of the building. This project has been supported by the ministry. There's still some work to be done around providing a business case or a small version of a PDR in order to get approval for funding for this project. So that is, we're still actually waiting to receive feedback from the ministry on next steps. We continue to have Sundance Bank Elementary on the list. The ministry is waiting for us to complete a project definition report, which is in progress. And also under, oh, that was major capital. So under minor capital, we're moving on to the school enhancement program. And under that program, we have South Park Family School receiving 500,000 support for roofing upgrades. Central Middle School, 400,000 for interior construction upgrades. And then under the carbon neutral capital program, Colquitt's Middle School is receiving 600,000 for HVAC upgrades. And then there was also an additional submission that the board had made in September of last year around the new food infrastructure program that the ministry was offering to support the Feeding Futures program. And what we did in that September submission is we applied for the funding we didn't receive in the first round. And so we received all of the funding that we requested. It shows up under Cloverdale, but it's actually not tied specifically to that school. So there are several schools and also the Tolmie building that have allocations. All of this is around upgrading storage or kitchen areas specifically tied to the Feeding Futures program. And one thing I will mention is that we talked about the submission for the 2025-2026 annual 5-year capital plan. You'll see that come forward in draft at the May operations meeting. It won't be moving forward to the board at that time. It will come back to the operations meeting again in June. And then it will go to the board in June for submission again at the end of June. So there'll be lots of time for feedback on that one. Yeah, so that's the high level detail. If you have any questions, please feel free and we'll do our best to answer them.
Good. Thank you for walking us through that. Trustees, do we have any questions for the Secretary Treasurer? Yeah, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
And I apologize if this was asked last year when we submitted the report, but I just wondered if you could give us a little more information about the interior construction that's supposed to happen at Central Middle School. I feel like you did, and I apologize for asking again.
Marnie may want to jump in if I don't have this right, but I believe it's the gym floor.
Correct. Fantastic. Always nice to get new gym floor. Thank you very much. Any other questions, trustees, in relation to the approval? Okay. All right, so without further ado, then we do have a number of potential readings this evening. I will get us started with our first reading, and then I will look to a mover and a seconder. So the recommended motion is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, approve capital bylaw number 2024-25-CPSD 61-01, capital plan 2024-25, whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, hereinafter called the Board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, hereinafter called the Minister, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a plan with modifications. Now, therefore, in accordance with section 143 of the School Act, the Board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following. A, authorize the Secretary Treasurer to execute a capital project funding agreements related to the capital projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan with modifications. B, upon ministerial approval, to proceed commence the capital projects and proceed diligently and use its best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the minister. C, observe and comply with any order, regulation, or policy of the minister as may be applicable to the board or the capital projects. And D, maintain proper books of account and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital projects as may be prescribed by the minister. Now, therefore, the board enacts as follows. 1, the capital bylaw of the board for 2024-25 capital plan is approved by the minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent dated March 15th, 2024 is hereby adopted. 2, the capital bylaw may be cited as School District Number 61 Greater Victoria, capital bylaw number 2024-25-CPSD 61-01, be read a first time this 29th day of April 2024. All right, colleagues, I'm going to look for a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Mabovy has moved it, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee McNally. All right, any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of first, oh, sorry, Trustee Painter, did you have something that you wanted to say before I call the vote?
No, just a quick question, and I was hoping that the Director of Facilities could remind me. I noticed we don't have, we didn't make a submission for playground enhancement. Was there, I thought that would be kind of one of those default ones that we would always ask for, but is that driven by sort of a dollar amount of other submissions, or were there criteria that aren't immediately apparent for why we wouldn't have applied for that?
No, unfortunately, we applied for it the last 2 years and we haven't been successful in any of our applications the last 2 years. So we just didn't receive funding for it this year.
Okay.
So we applied, in other words, and just didn't get funding. So
Correct.
We're just looking at what was approved.
Correct. We'll keep applying. Fingers crossed for next year.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see it in, maybe I'm misreading. I was looking at the March, oh, sorry. No, I withdraw that. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to clarify for everyone, the letter is just the projects that have been approved. Okay, thanks for the question and the clarification. Marnie, appreciate it. All right, folks, I'm going to call the question subject to any other comments or discussion. Okay, all those in favor with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. I'm going to move us right into second reading, so just bear with me. Okay, so that the Board of Education of School District Number 61 Greater Victoria approve capital bylaw number 2024-25-6 CPSD 61-01 capital plan 2024-25. Whereas in accordance with Section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District Number 61 Greater Victoria, hereinafter called the Board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, hereinafter called the Minister, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a plan with modifications. Now, therefore, in accordance with Section 143 of the School Act, the Board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following. A, authorize the Secretary Treasurer to execute a capital project funding agreements related to the capital projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan with modifications. B, upon ministerial approval to proceed, commence the capital projects and proceed diligently and use its best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the Minister. C, observe and comply with any order, regulation, or policy of the Minister as may be applicable to the Board or the capital projects. And D, maintain proper books of accounts and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital projects as may be prescribed by the Minister. Now, therefore, the Board enacts as follows. 1, the capital bylaw of the Board for the 2024-25 capital plan is approved by the Minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent dated March 15th, 2024 is hereby adopted. 2, this capital bylaw may be cited as School District number 61, Greater Victoria, capital bylaw number 2024-25-CPSD 61-01, read a second time this 29th day of April, 2024. May I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Gagnon, and a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Mobobi. Appreciate that. Okay, so our second reading has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor with a show of hands. And, oh, okay, so that is unanimous. Trustee McNally, just confirming you were in favor. Great, thank you very much. Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so in order to move into a third reading, we need to have the unanimous approval of all the board members present this evening. And so the recommended motion is that the Board of Education of School District number 61 Greater Victoria agree to give all 3 readings of School District number 61 Greater Victoria, capital bylaw number 2024-25-CPSD 61-01 at the April 29th, 2024 board meeting. So trustees looking, if you want to do the third reading this evening, we would need unanimous approval. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee McNally, seconded by Trustee Mobobi. Any discussion? Trustee Painter, go ahead.
I want to note that I will not be supporting third reading tonight. I'd like to examine this just in a little greater detail, and I believe I have some questions that are more pertinently addressed in camera. So.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Painter. Secretary Treasurer, is there any operational ramifications of not doing third reading tonight? And if so, would you please inform the board of those?
We're unable to receive our funding for the projects until the bylaw is carried. We provide the bylaw to the minister, and then they release the certificate of approvals to us for funding. So there isn't, unless we don't want to move forward with any of these projects and get the funding back, I don't know if there's anything that we can change that's in here. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe Marnie could speak to whether or not that would delay anything that they have planned, or if we would just be able to move forward knowing that the funding is coming shortly.
So in other words, the funding would be, the board bylaw reading, the final reading that would be required to receive the funding would either have to wait to a special board meeting at another time or to our May board meeting at the end of May, worst case scenario. So yeah, we're just looking for operational implications of potentially waiting until the end of May to do third reading.
Can I
go ahead? Yeah, no, please.
Yeah, there will be some major implications because we've got some contractors lined up. And if we postpone it till May, they will go on to other projects. So we will delay pretty much every single one of those projects except for the food infrastructure program.
Thank you for that clarity. Associate Secretary Treasurer Lutner, did you have any other context or advice recommendations for the board to consider?
Through the chair, I just, if spending was going to be happening, we'll just need to make sure that we receive the funds by June 30th, by year end. I know Marnie had plans to spend some of the funds right away. So yeah, as Marnie said, that will just delay everything.
Thank you very much. Okay, so in light of those operational realities, yeah, Trustee Painter, go ahead.
Well, in light of those operational realities, I will support this. However, I do want to note that I have previously requested that all capital planning go through ops in advance of coming to the board because the board is not a necessarily an appropriate venue for being able to ask questions in depth. And it does concern me that we aren't giving more complete attention to this topic. It's a very significant one for us and our facilities in general.
Thank you, trustee Painter. Secretary Treasurer, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely understand that thought process. This capital submission, so the submission that the board approved did come to ops in May last year, and again to ops in June last year, and then was approved by the board in June. So these are all items that were included on that approved submission. We didn't get everything we asked for, unfortunately. But these items were indeed part of the submission that the board approved last June. And we did make two opportunities for more open discussion and dialogue at ops, which we're planning to do again for this next round. So you'll see for 25-26, the submission, you'll see that come forward in May ops and again in June ops, and then to the board for approval at the end of June. So we're trying, hopefully that's enough opportunity for feedback, but I look for your guidance if that's not enough.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and we'll also keep the feedback in mind as we look at our agenda planning, and if there is any other opportunity to weave it into more agendas, if we think that's necessary and we get direction from the board to do so, then we will certainly keep that in mind at our agenda planning as well. Okay, so we've discussed the operational implications of not completing third reading tonight. With that in mind, apologies, folks. Just a reminder of who moved and seconded the motion to do third reading tonight. I believe it was trustee Mabobi and McNally, but can we just clarify? Secretary Treasurer, would you mind? Thank you.
It was trustee McNally and then trustee Mabobi.
Okay, so trustee McNally moving and trustee Mabobi seconding. Okay, got it. Thank you for the reminder. Okay, any discussion then, trustees? And again, this is just we're voting to approve whether we do a third reading this evening. And we've discussed the operational realities. Yeah, trustee McNally, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. This is a bit tangential, but I'm not sure what other opportunity I would have to bring it up. So I think trustee Painter's point about having this come through ops is well taken, because some of these things were approved a year ago, and it would be nice to have them brought to forward to top of mind in an ops before the board. I just would like to see that happen as well, and I'm not quite sure whether a suggestion suffices or whether we need a motion at some other time.
Yeah, sorry, trustee McNally, thank you. Yeah, and just to clarify, yes, what we could look to do is when we get the approval letter. So as the Secretary Treasurer's pointed out, the board approved and had discussions in May and June of last year in relation to the submission to the ministry. But once we get the approval, so and we know what projects are going to be supported by the ministry, what are not, which comes in March. We could then take another opportunity to have that approval letter come potentially before ops and have another opportunity to have a discussion. That's something we certainly could consider weaving into our agendas. So yeah, I don't know if we really need a motion. I think we're all of us that on the agenda setting committee are hearing that feedback, and we'll certainly endeavor to consider that when we're setting the agendas, but we're at your disposal. If you do want to move a motion, you're welcome to. But right now we do have a motion on the floor, so we'd have to wait to do that. So if we could just sort of move back to our main motion, which is whether we approve a third reading this evening. But yeah, points well taken, and we appreciate that feedback. Any further discussion about moving to have a third reading this evening before I call the question? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of doing a third reading this evening? And that is unanimous. Okay, thank you, trustees. All right, so we're going to move right into third reading. Again, bear with me. So the third reading is as follows: that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, approve capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPSD 61-01, capital plan 2024-25. Whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, hereinafter called the Board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, hereinafter called the Minister, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a capital plan with modifications. Now, therefore, in accordance with section 143 of the School Act, the Board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following. A, authorize the Secretary Treasurer to execute a capital project funding agreements related to the capital projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan with modifications. B, upon ministerial approval to proceed, commence the capital projects and proceed diligently and use its best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the Minister. C, observe and comply with any order, regulation, or policy of the Minister as may be applicable to the Board or the capital projects. And D, maintain proper books of account and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital projects as may be prescribed by the Minister. Now, therefore, the Board enacts as follows. 1, the capital bylaw of the Board for the 2024-25 capital plan as approved by the Minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent dated March 15th, 2024 is hereby adopted. 2, the capital bylaw may be cited as School District number 61, Greater Victoria, capital bylaw number 2024-25 CPSD 61-01, be read a third time this 29th day of April 2024, and finally passed and adopted the 29th day of April 2024. May I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee McNally, seconded by Trustee Gagnon. Any further discussion in relation? Yeah, Trustee Painter, go ahead.
So I'm just seeking clarification. So this is the response to the submission from May, June of last year, correct?
It's the approval. Trustee
The approval
yeah.
from that submission.
Yes, correct.
So I accept that maybe I'm not looking in the right spot, but I don't see Sundance anywhere on our list of submissions. So am I just looking in the wrong spot, or?
Yeah, Secretary Treasurer. Thank you, Trustee Painter. Secretary Treasurer, go ahead when you're ready.
That item is a carryover from a previous year. So that's probably why we wouldn't have put it on last year, because it was already on the approval list from the ministry. We just haven't moved it forward yet.
Okay, I think that was the source of my confusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Painter. Yeah, so the previous approval stands. Thanks for the clarification. Okay, any further discussion before I call the question? All right, hearing none, all those in favor with a show of hands. And sorry, oh, there we go. That's unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate your patience while I try to find you. Okay, so we are now at C, and this is the 2024-2025 Annual Facilities Grant, or as we refer to it, the AFG Expenditure Plan Submission. Secretary Treasurer, would you mind walking the board through the submission?
Okay, so this is the 2024-2025 AFG Expenditure Plan Submission. The deadline for this submission this year is May 17th. I've included in the memo all of the different kinds of projects that are eligible for this funding. And generally it's for upgrading or replacing existing facility components throughout the expected life of an asset, enhancing the service potential of an existing asset, or a component of an existing asset by correcting deficiencies in design or construction or unsafe conditions, significantly lowering the associated operating costs of an existing asset, or extending the life of an existing asset or component of an existing capital asset, but beyond its original life expectancy. So these are more of assets that we already have. We're not necessarily building new ones. There's some categories there: accessibility upgrades, asbestos abatement, electrical upgrades, exterior wall system upgrades, HVAC upgrades, interior construction upgrades, plumbing upgrades, roofing upgrades, and site upgrades. So, and then they have some specific items that are not eligible. So, we received our funding announcement in, I think it was the 15th of March, and we are receiving a total of $5,110,888. Some of it is in a category of operating and some in capital. Some of our items are repairs and maintenance, and some are considered capital. And so Marnie and her team have put together the list that's in the attachment, and that will be submitted to the ministry in time for the May 17th deadline. So this is the submission. I don't believe that we are held necessarily to this list. This is our best plan based on our priorities as of this time. But as you know, things can come up throughout the year and we may need to reprioritize. So this is facilities best list, as you could say, of priority items that need to be addressed throughout the school district. So we're happy to answer any questions that you might have on this list.
Thank you very much, Secretary Treasurer. Okay, folks, and so we've got the memo in the pack up with the plan and this plan submission to the ministry. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
I actually had a question about the roofing at Eagleview Elementary. I see that it is a metal roof replacement, which to me seems to assume that there's a metal roof there already. And I just wondered, my understanding is that metal roofs are supposed to last quite a long time. So I just wondered kind of what was going on with the roofing there and why it needs to be replaced.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Secretary Treasurer.
I will happily pass that over to the Director of Facilities to answer that question.
Thank you, Director. Hi.
No, we're actually putting a new metal roof on it. It's not a current metal roof. So the original was tile. Yeah. So it's a new metal roof done in-house.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, bravo.
Thanks for the clarification.
Welcome.
Any other questions in relation to the plan? And I appreciate, Secretary Treasurer, you providing us with some context and the realities operationally that some of the plan might need to be adjusted depending on priorities that arise during the year. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so tonight, this is for information only. You're not seeking board approval, if I recall correctly. This is just to let the board know what the plan is. Is that right?
That's right. This particular submission doesn't require a board motion. And so we're just bringing it to you for your information. And I'm sure if there's anything major that comes up to change that, we'll keep the board notified.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Okay, trustees, any further questions or points of clarification, comments that we want to share with staff in relation to this item before I move us on? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And again, yeah, good luck with all the work. We hope it goes as planned. So we are now at the D, which is the 2024-2025 budget development process survey results, which is there in the packet for information. Secretary Treasurer, was there anything that you wanted to highlight from that?
The only thing I want to highlight is in the background section. So a survey was created and sent out. We sent it out to individuals who participated in the current budget process in some way. So if they're a staff member involved, if they were on one of the budget working groups, we went through the list of attendees at all of the events, either for students or education partner groups, and also the public meeting, because we had email addresses. And so we sent out to 269 individual email addresses. We received back 101 responses, but I will add to this that I believe that the survey did get posted onto a Facebook site. So I think we're receiving some responses from individuals who didn't initially receive the email. So I will just add that as a caveat. But you can see in the body of the memo what the questions were, what the responses were, and we have redacted out anything that was a name of an individual or appeared to be a name. Some of them may have been auto-correct names, but we just took anything else that referred to a specific individual. So that's what that is about. But otherwise copied and pasted from the survey in there for your information. And probably like the intention of this is to use information that we received from the survey in as we look to next year in the process, and if there's anything in there that we might want to incorporate into our budget development process for next year.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. Trustees, any questions or things that you want to address before I move us on to question period? Yeah, Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to the Secretary Treasurer for putting the survey out and asking for that feedback. I think that's a really great culmination to the budget process, so appreciate that. The one thing I wanted to address was I saw a couple of instances in there where people had said we made cuts to EAs, and from my recollection, I don't recall that happened with this budget, but I would love some clarification because yeah, I just want to clarify whether that actually happened or not.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Secretary Treasurer.
I'm not recalling a direct reduction to EAs. I don't know, Julie, if there was. I'm wondering if it's coming in because of when we were in the public meeting, we had questions around EAs, but I don't believe any of the final items do.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. Trustee Painter, did you have something you wanted to add to this?
No, I was just wondering if that might have been referenced to, I believe some funding was reallocated where it had been earmarked for EAs, but the positions could not be filled, and that those funds were earmarked for something else.
Yes, yeah. Associate Secretary Treasurer, do you want to just sort of clarify that for folks that are listening? Thanks. And thanks, Trustee Painter, for the reminder.
Sure, through the chair. So there was a reduction for EA positions that don't typically fill.
So just to clarify then, so that would be an amount that we would normally sort of carry forward as like to add to the surplus because it tends not to be allocated. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so not a direct cut to positions, but something that we tend to carry forward year in, year out, because we aren't able to find enough EA staffing. Okay, anything else before I move us on, folks? Okay. All right, thank you very much. We are now at question period, so we have 15 minutes for this portion of our agenda. Just a reminder of some of the procedural aspects of this element of our regular standing board meeting agenda. Each person can submit one question, and so if folks have sent in more than one question, we endeavor to look to their first question and see if we can answer that. Okay, so I see Associate Superintendent Arts, thank you. You've sent through a number of questions. Let me just see if I can start at the bottom of the list. So the first question Was there a newsletter sent to teachers to communicate the stance of the GVTA before a letter was written to the school board to end the SPLO program? I don't know if this question really is for us. But I will look to staff. The board certainly does not decide how one of our partners communicates with their members about an issue before the board. We do include our partners in decisions, and indeed, like all partners at our governance table, the GVTA were represented and have their own internal processes. So I really don't know that this is ours to answer. But again, turning to staff if you have a different view.
And thank you through the chair. We agree with your response.
Okay, I'm going to move us on. We have, and thank you to Associate Superintendent Arts for highlighting the questions for me. I really appreciate that. Makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so the next question is, in particular, number 9, police are allowed to, in the Board of Education's, sorry, looks like it's a quote. It says, police are allowed in the Board of Education's decision does not limit police access to schools. The ending of the SPLO program does not prohibit police from entering schools or grounds. And then, so this must be from maybe something taken from our FAQ. So the question is, can police assist in such things as crossing guard duties? Or is this statement implying when it is only a policing matter, like schools need help, call the police? Okay, so I know certainly in terms of crossing guards, we have crossing guard service provision, and to the best of my knowledge, and again, I'll turn to the superintendent to provide any further information. Crossing guard services are provided by our crossing guard employees, which happened in most cases, I believe, to be our EAs, who then also, so our QB staff, who also provide crossing guard services. Superintendent, are you aware of police being involved in crossing guard services?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. Let me just see if I can find the next question. Okay.
Sure. I offer my 2 bits. I think
technically, according to our bylaw,
okay,
it is me that fields these and then refers to staff. So I think we'll stick to the rules of order, but appreciate your willingness to pitch in, Trustee Painter. So let's see here. The next one is, before the board made its decision to remove the school liaison program, did any of the trustees spend a day with one of the officers? So I won't speak for my colleagues, but certainly the review process did not involve anybody from the review committee, which I sat on as a trustee member, shadowing police liaison officers, but police representatives were members of the review committee throughout the entire period of the review over the 2.5 years. And so certainly submissions from those police reps on the review committee were considered by the board in addition to other written submissions that we received from police, including a couple police chiefs and I believe it was a constable who also sent in a written submission for the review committee, which the board also considered. Superintendent, was there anything else from your perspective that you would add in response to that question?
No, I don't think there's anything else to add to that specific question.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so the next question this evening is, does the school board owe their position on the SPLO program to the GVTA since the GVTA endorsed this entire board? Does this not equate to a conflict of interest? Okay, so I think there has been some confusion about the basis of the board's decision. So the board made its decision based on a unanimous vote of each of the board members. Each of the 9 members of the board will come to their decisions from their own perspective and consideration of the facts before them. It was a unanimous decision. As board members, we represent the entire learning community. As a board, we consider the feedback of all of our partners. We certainly considered all the feedback, including the feedback we received from the GVTA. I think that's really all I can add. I suppose the only other thing that is relevant here in response to this particular question is just clarification that when somebody endorses candidates, they're endorsing individual candidates. They're not endorsing trustees as a slate, at least not in this case. So each candidate that ran for election and was elected to this board ran as individual members, not as part of a slate. However, each of our partners who are involved in the election process are well within their rights to vet and to endorse candidates. That's just part of the electoral process and something that is to be expected and doesn't reflect any kind of conflict. Superintendent, was there anything else, or indeed, I guess, Secretary Treasurer, was there anything else on this one that you think we can respond or should respond to?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question this evening is, I'd like to hear comments from the board surrounding the removal of the only Indigenous school liaison officer from SD61 schools when they made the decision to take away the program. So when the board was reviewing and considering whether to end the program, the board and indeed the review committee did not consider individual officers or their roles within police services. That was not part of our review and indeed is not part of our mandate as a Board of Education. Each police service has the mandate and the autonomy to decide what officers they want to utilize and the service provision they want to provide. So the board's decision did not consider individual staffing considerations within police services. It's simply not within our mandate. Again, Superintendent, was there anything else that you think we should be adding?
No.
Okay, our next question this evening. Just bear with me a second. So it says, as continued support built for police back in schools, why do the trustees feel they are in a position to ignore the voice of the public? Well, I think there's some assumptions built into the question, but essentially, trustees are considering all views, and sometimes when we make decisions, it can be difficult for folks to understand the perspectives or the rationale behind the decision. We've done our best to take account of some of the differing perspectives and feedback and to provide a number of statements, including an FAQ, which hopefully will help to clarify the rationale and some of the basis for the decision. But, when a decision is or a subject matter is polarizing, it is difficult. You're not going to please everybody. Someone will be disappointed with the outcome. We've tried to approach things in a balanced way and to clarify that the role of police in our schools, and the board certainly in light of feedback and intended all along following our decision, continues to have dialogue with police boards and will continue to do so moving forward. And so the conversation is not over. We're in the implementation stage, and that requires ongoing dialogues with our partners, including policing services. Again, Superintendent, just want to turn to you in case there's anything that you want to add.
No, I believe the questions are directed for the board and the board's responses.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. We have 4 minutes left, so I will do my best to get through as many of the remaining questions as I can. So the next one is, how does the board verify submissions to the board? For example, a letter was submitted by Stephen Harrison that referred to a report that he created. So the board doesn't verify submissions. We receive all submissions, and then it's really down to individual board members with guidance as appropriate from our staff to determine what weight to give certain information that's included in submissions. But again, that is part of our deliberations and the rationale and the weighing of differing perspectives that are received in submissions that trustees do when we're around the board table and having to make decisions. The next question. Why won't the board even consider bringing back the SPLOs in a modified way? So I would encourage the individual asking the question, and perhaps we can forward that individual a link to our FAQ. So police continue to be a resource for our learning community, and a significant part of what police have always done in schools continues to be the part of the role they play. We've reiterated a number of times that our existing protocols around emergencies, lockdowns, holds, secures, and violent threat risk assessments continue to be a core part of what police do, and that hasn't changed following the board's decision. The board, though, is directing that where services should be provided to students from trained, certified, and regulated professionals within our school communities and our staff and appropriate community partners, that those services be carried out by those trained, certified, and regulated professionals rather than police. And the only other thing I would add in relation to that is that the board is engaged in ongoing dialogue with policing services, and we are hoping to agree a communication protocol with policing services moving forward. Okay, so I think we have time maybe for one more. We have a minute left. And I'm just going to turn to, I want to make sure I don't want to, I want to just turn to the Associate Superintendent. I believe actually I may have reached the end of the questions. I think the next question in the inbox is a second question from somebody that may have already sent in one question. And so I think we actually may have made it through all of the questions within the 15 minutes allotted. But Associate Superintendent, would you just help to confirm that for me?
Thank you, through the chair. You are correct. That is all of the questions that have come in, and there's nothing that has come in during this period of you answering questions.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you, folks, and thank you to everybody that took the time to submit their questions to us. We appreciate it. We're now at G, public disclosure of in-camera items. We have public disclosure under G1 through G5 that's there for your information. We are now at new business, notice of motions. We have one motion under new business this evening. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the superintendent to establish a climate action plan implementation ad hoc committee that will review the implementation of the district's climate action plan and report its findings and recommendations at the regular Board of Education meeting in October each year, and further that a budget of $5,000 be established to support the ad hoc committee's work. Excuse me, may I have a mover? Thank you, Trustee Gagnon. And a seconder, pardon me while I lose my voice. Thank you, Trustee Painter. Any discussion? So this is just to clarify. So this motion was being brought forward just to provide an ongoing mechanism for us to basically review and monitor the implementation of the board's climate action plan. It also sort of acknowledges that there may be some costs associated with that work. The only thing I might suggest to the board for consideration, and then before we have a discussion, I was remiss by not turning to our partners to ask for their views before we get into discussions. So I'm just going to suggest possibly a timeline for bringing the terms of reference through, as well as a place for that to come. But before I do that, I just want to turn to our partners and see if you have any feedback for us in relation to the motion. Thank you. Hey, nice to see you, Darren. Thanks for being here. The floor
Hi,
is yours when
thank
you're
you.
ready.
I just wanted to ask if this was in fact to involve this ad hoc committee was to involve the partnership groups as well?
Indeed.
Just for clarification.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. In fact, we are counting on your support on this committee. So yeah, I think what we might want to consider as a board is moving an amendment to the motion just to have the terms of reference come through one of the standing committees for discussion, and it would be the terms of reference which would specify the partner representation around that ad hoc committee table. Or do our partners have any other questions, comments in relation to the proposed motion? Okay, thank you very much. So trustees, we do have a mover and a seconder. I'm wondering if somebody would like to move an amendment just to introduce a timeline. So keeping in mind that we're due to review this in October each year. That's sort of the way that it falls. And so perhaps we want to consider having a draft terms of reference come to ops in May or June. Certainly, I would think no later than June. So maybe we want to give some flexibility because we are tasking the superintendent with this work. Superintendent, would it be feasible for you to have a draft terms of reference for the board's consideration sometime before or by the June ops latest? Is that feasible from your perspective?
Yes, thank you very much. Through the chair, that would be feasible. And what I would anticipate, as you have mentioned, is to bring a draft terms of reference that would then go through the board and then to the actual committee for its finalization.
So would it be possible then for trustees, if you think that that is a sensible way forward, if somebody would like to move that amendment to the motion? Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
I'll just move that amendment.
Thank you. Okay, so that would be to bring draft terms of reference to the Operations Policy and Planning Committee for consideration no later than June. Seconded by Trustee Gagnon. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion? And that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. Okay, so we have an amended motion. Does anybody need me to remind us where we're at or what it says? Okay, all right. So we have a main motion. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion as amended, with a show of hands. And that is unanimous. All right, thank you, trustees. And thank you in advance to the superintendent for helping us get there. We appreciate it. Okay, so under H2, we have notice of motions. The recommended notice of motion is that the Board of Education of School District number 61, Greater Victoria, direct the superintendent to work with the district's manager of energy to provide the Board of Education with a report detailing the cost benefit and feasibility of investing in solar panels at Mount Douglas Secondary and Victoria High School. Just a notice of motion, the intention is to bring this motion to May ops for consideration. Great, so that's just there for information. We are now at that point in our evening when I will be looking to a motion to adjourn from my colleagues. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you everyone for being here this evening. We really appreciate it. All right, colleagues, may I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Trustee Mabobi, seconded by Trustee Gagnon. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Good night, everyone. Take care. Bye.